Do you ever feel like your life is just one long to-do list on repeat? Like you're waiting for something big to happen, but all you have is laundry to do, chores, and unopened text messages and emails. Welcome to Existential Office Hours. I'm Lori, your host, and today we're talking about how the boring stuff, like routines, having to make your bed, do our chores, the in-betweens might actually be where the meaning is. And I know that sounds crazy, but even when things feel uncertain, they might all be okay in the end. So before we get into it, I'm gonna do a land acknowledgement as usual. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are currently broadcasting this podcast on stolen land that was once rich in generations of culture, biodiversity, sacred traditions, and wisdom passed down through generations, was disrupted by colonization, and bears the scars of history. Nevertheless, it continues to heal and regenerate despite ongoing violence. This land remains deeply rooted in indigenous identities of those that were here before us, those of the Mississauga of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe and the Wendake nations. Acknowledging these nations is important to me as a Black woman whose home was previously colonized and is now changed by these systems. To address systemic oppression and colonization that continues to happen in our world today. The Mississauga, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe and the Wendake nations and people of this land are not forgotten, despite the injustices and displacement they have faced. Like the Anishinaabe values, I am committed to reconciliation and minimizing my impact on the environment, and I continue to learn from, support, and uplift these communities. And I urge you to find your own ways to support Indigenous rights and communities following their values. Beautiful. Okay, let's get into it because I know this is a little bit different from my usual topic. Haven't really been in a spiraling mood, guys. I have had some crazy things happen over the past couple weeks. I had to pull over on the side of the road. That was scary, but sometimes it's fine because honestly I was pulled over on the DVP doing work. I was working, so that's fun. I got some extra work in while I was leaving work. Anyways, so today's topic is a little bit different, but I feel like it's really important to acknowledge something like this because I feel like it's really easy to overlook it and just forget about something like this. So I'm really interested in talking about it and hearing what everyone's thoughts and opinions are. So it's really easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of everything of our lives, especially as we are transitioning from school to work, or just doing both work and school, or just trying to find ourselves and our community and our people and our passions, what that is. It's really easy to get caught up in all of that. And as well, we also have things we just have to do, whether that's small like chores or larger like paying bills, and it's easy to get caught up in the to-do lists of adulthood. Such a fun hood to be in. But what does it mean exactly when I say finding peace in the ordinary and trusting the process? And how do you trust the process when you have trust issues, or even when it feels like nothing makes sense? I feel like that's really scary and it's really hard to do. I'm still trying to figure out how to trust the process. But and I don't have the answers. I never have the answers, guys. But yeah, how are we supposed to trust this process? It's hard to look and be optimistic, especially about the future, when you have no idea what your future is going to be. And everyone's like, trust the process, trust the process. How do we do that? And so I decided to do this topic today because despite my last couple weeks being rough, like every day there was like some other like big event that was happening. Yesterday I was reading in my backyard because the weather was nice out, and I feel like I hope everyone's mood is getting a bit better, because the sun is finally starting to come out. But yeah, it was really nice out, so I decided to read my book in my backyard, and it was just like so zen and so peaceful and blissful. And I felt so much, I don't know what the word is, but I just felt really at peace and calm, tranquil, maybe is the word. Um, Doing that, and it was something that was so small, so mediocre. Not like, I don't know, I was skydiving and felt like this. And I really wanted to talk about that and like just touch on that because I feel like I'm not the only one that just like puts themselves in those moments, and it's like really overpowering, but in a good way, and just you feel really at peace. And I hope that that's something that other people can relate to as well, because it's a nice feeling sometimes to just put the world on pause. And I didn't expect that either. That like just reading in my backyard, literally like doing nothing, could like have such a like good overwhelming feeling of peace and calm. And I welcomed it, obviously, but yeah, it really, I could feel like because I try to be in tune with my body to some extent at least, and I could feel when my nervous system is like regulated and like I'm chill and calm, and I didn't expect it to have such a positive impact on my nervous system. It was really great. And of course that comes from like a place of privilege, because I don't think if I was still in school that would have been like a thing I could do, like relaxing when I have a thesis to do. That was like, no, those like, I don't know how, 8 months of school, yeah, no relaxation, no rest, no relaxation. That just wasn't a concept. So I recognize that it's not something everyone has the privilege of doing, but you know, once you get through that cave, that dark time, uh, it gets better, I guess. It can get better. You will have moments where it's better. Yeah, I'm not gonna falsely advertise. So yeah, I could physically feel when my body's just like calm and regulated, and it's not something I get a lot. It's not a feeling I get a lot. So when I do get it, I gotta soak it up, relish in it, might I say. But it's not only moments like that. Like, I don't read in my backyard often. I think that was like the first time ever that I did that. It's also when I'm like, if I'm on a walk or something. If I went to the zoo recently, and I highly recommend anyone watching this to go to the zoo. I feel like this group of people would appreciate the zoo. Even if you don't like animals, like being outside is so good. And I always thought people were just trying to gaslight me into being active and stuff, but it really good. It's really good. I hate to admit it. I truly hate to admit it, but being active and like being outside is good for your mental health. And it's mental health month, so why not? But yeah, I went to the zoo, and I love animals, so I obviously had a ball of a time. But that was like so fun. I feel like I need to get a zoo membership now. I'm thinking about adopting a gorilla. That's a story for another time though, or a zebra. I really don't care what animal, but I was thinking about volunteering, but I guess their volunteer form is like closed for the summer. So I guess the membership is as close as I can get. So yeah, and even if I'm doing something like cooking or baking too, I also like baked a cake yesterday from scratch. It's amazing, it's magnificent. But I really like doing those things, and so just finding those moments where you can turn your brain off kind of and not put a lot of like mental effort or work into what you're doing, I feel like those are the moments. Those are the moments where we truly get to find and feel purposeful and feel meaning. Like, sure, you could also do it or feel like that from like completing a huge task. But I don't want us to discredit or discount those smaller tasks either. If you get what I'm saying, if you picking up what I'm putting down. So yeah, it's these little activities like walking, cooking, cleaning that seem so small, but can have like such big impacts that we don't realize. And I wanted to know, like, why is it? Like, why do we feel like this from just doing like small mundane tasks type thing? So obviously I looked it up. I did some digging. I've been feeling like I need to sneeze, but it's not coming. Anyways, so yeah, I looked it up, and I think we think a lot of the time we find like meaning or peace or whatever, and the place we find it in or the task we find it in, I think we think it has to be this big thing, like, you know, this big epiphany, like, oh, I'm skydiving, I'm completing this like huge major project. And I'm not saying it can't be, but I'm saying it's not always like that. It's sometimes when we have moments of quiet and rest where our brains can like kind of recuperate and relax, and we can start thinking and gears can start to turn and stuff. And sometimes peace and calm can look like doing the same tasks over and over again. I don't want this like ideology of, oh, like you'll attain peace and you'll find meaning or whatever once you complete major tasks. Like, you can't find that from doing the same thing over and over. You can't find that while you're doing your chores or doing like smaller tasks, because that's simply not true. I feel like I found more peace and meaning when I'm just like still and at peace and tranquil. And maybe other people can relate, maybe other people can't relate, but that's just my opinion, truly. And so I looked at this from two different lenses, from a psychological lens and from a Buddhist lens, but I'm not like a Buddhist, so correct me if I'm wrong. I was trying to find the most reliable sources I could. But from a psych lens, doing these mundane tasks offers us an ability to come back to the now, which makes sense because, you know, we're doing these tasks that don't take up a lot of mental work. So, you know, we really have space in our brains, for lack of a better explanation. We have the ability to kind of mind wander. And, you know, we're doing these simple tasks, but it has like, I hope I'm making sense. Like, we're doing these small tasks, but they can have like really big impacts for us because it's in those like moments where our brains are at rest or our bodies are at rest, and we can just kind of like be still and kind of feel what we need to feel, think about what we need to think about. It's not like this like super mentally exhausting task, like, I don't know, writing a book report or something, where like, who's ever at peace writing a book report? Maybe some people, okay, maybe some people, but I'm just saying, you don't really get to feel that kind of stillness that you might have wanted to, and it allows you to take a step back. before you continue with other tasks. Like if you're making your morning coffee and you're just like waiting for it to brew, it's just like that moment of silence in the morning is like, it could be really, really grounding and really calming, opposed to driving on your way to work with like busy traffic and people honking and loud music blasting, kids in the back yelling at each other, like that might be like very overstimulating, very mentally overwhelming. So it might not be as peaceful and as grounding of a moment. And so there's this micromolecular biologist called John Kabat-Zinn. I really hope I'm saying that right. And he founded mindfulness-based stress reduction therapies. And he came up with a definition of mindfulness. And this is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. And so when we think of that, if we're applying those methods and really trying to be mindful, it innately helps us to kind of soothe our anxiety and kind of build resilience on top of that. Like recognizing the moments you're in, like putting yourself fully in those moments, feeling what you need to feel and being mindful, because mindfulness doesn't always need to be about feeling calm and meditating, and it's about really recognizing and truly being aware and mindful. And it's not an easy practice necessarily, but I think it is a necessary one to find those moments of peace and those moments of calm as well. So yeah, and then in Buddhism, I found this kind of interesting, but in Buddhism or Zen philosophy, they think, or they believe, that ordinary tasks are quite sacred. I feel like I want to like read a book about Buddhism. I'll go into the book I'm reading more about now because I'm obsessed with it. But yeah, if anyone knows any like Buddhism books, let me know, because I feel like Buddhism is so interesting. I still need to sneeze, by the way. So yeah, and they believe that ordinary tasks are sacred. And what that means is that that's the time of enlightenment for them, within doing these ordinary tasks, not just like, not these busy tasks like working and doing a heavy course load or whatever, but completing basic tasks like sweeping, mopping, doing the dishes. Those are the time of enlightenment. And that perhaps connects also to what John Kabat-Zinn was saying about mindfulness, just putting yourself in those moments, because that's when you can really be, type thing. And I think that's really beautiful. Yeah, and the Buddhists say when tasks are easy to complete, it's significantly easier to put yourself in that moment, which I agree with, and which I've been, saying throughout this whole episode. We we can turn our brains off for a moment and just really put ourselves in and be and acknowledge what we're doing and acknowledge what we're feeling and what our day is looking like. And I think there's something really powerful in that, and I think there's something really powerful in accepting that those small tasks and mediocre, mundane tasks are the ones that are most meaningful, because we start to look at those tasks different, perhaps. In the book I'm reading, Sapiens, I need to figure out who wrote it, but it's called Sapiens. I think there's only one book called Sapiens. And obviously it's about evolution, okay, because I'm obsessed with evolution, and you could only imagine how much of a ball I was having when I was seeing the gorillas and the baboons and orangutans at the zoo recently. Those were my favorite to see, because they're literally like our cousins. Our DNA is so similar. it's crazy to think they're the ones in the zoos and we're like looking at them, like parading them around. Like, okay, yeah, anyways. So obviously I was talking with the zookeepers about it. And I got a little 30-minute lecture that I enjoyed quite much, actually. um, so yeah, and now that I think back, they were okay, I'm not gonna talk about this, but yeah, in the book I'm reading, Sapiens, I can go on about evolution forever, but there's one part that really stood out to me because the author was kind of insinuating that they kind of had, like, the archaic humans really enjoyed their lives because, you know, they would wake up, I don't know, 8 o'clock and go gathering, hunting if they needed to, and then have lunch, and then just kind of chill, tell stories, play with the kids. And, you know, it was really nice. And even though they had less, like, stuff, for lack of a better word, and we have, like, all these possessions and items today, we we still struggle to find, like, meaning and purpose with our life and just, like, be, like, happy and content. And they were talking about and considering the fact that it could be because even though we, you know, complete these steps, we go to school, go to work, get a job, get a home, after, like, our job, like, our day-to-day lives look so different from what the archaic humans would look like. You know, they would have so much downtime and just time to, like, be and acknowledge and be still, even though, you know, they always had to be on the lookout for, like, predators and things that could kill them. But they had their band and they had their group and their people. But we have to go to work, you know, do this, like, mentally draining task for the most part, and then come home from our 9 to 5 and do our 5 to 9 and, like, wind down and clean and cook and eat, take care of children if you have children or pets, and then just rinse repeat type thing. So it's not as fulfilling. We don't get as much downtime, and it's really interesting to see the evolution of humans from what we used to be and what we're kind of, the environment we kind of thrive in, to the environment that we've created for ourselves today that, like, no one can keep up with, and it's really unsustainable, in my opinion at least. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. So with that, that's why I think there's so much power in acknowledging and honing the ability to be mindful and put yourself into those mundane tasks. And there was a quote by my favorite poet, Shane Koizikin, and I don't remember what poem he said this from. I should really find it, but I'm sure you can type in the quote and it'll show up. But he said, if you put yourself in every moment, in every second of every moment, you'll live a life worth living. And, you know, that really stuck with me for years, because it's kind of true. If you really acknowledge and feel what you need to feel in every second of every moment, obviously that's a bit much. You might not be able to do that all the time, but if you try your best to just be mindful of the time that's passing and the tasks you're doing, you won't feel kind of, or I would assume you won't feel kind of like life has passed you by, right? I would hope. So maybe there's something powerful in just accepting the now and the mundane tasks without needing them to be bigger than they are. And I say that because all the time we're kind of like striving for the next big thing, or we're always like trying to update the trends and go with the trends, but sometimes we don't need something new or something bigger than what it already is. We just have to accept it and be with it. Go back to our archaic human times. So yeah, and we can also use these tasks and these mundane chores as a space to be, you know, like, obviously, or usually no one likes doing chores, but if we think about them as just like time to put ourselves in the moment in time to be mindful, because they are pretty mundane tasks, like doing the dishes or something, then maybe we'll look at them differently. Maybe we'll want to do them. Obviously, it's not as fun as bed rotting, but yeah. And life comes in waves and spirals. Not every day will be a good day. You might not be able to fully put yourself in the moment all the time every day, but it's important to remember to have those mundane moments. It doesn't always need to be a big thing, and I think that's important to point out, because especially for me, I like to be like busybody, and then I get overwhelmed and I'm like, why am I overwhelmed? Why do I have a headache? Why am I hungry? It's because you haven't eaten, babe. But yeah, I think it's important not to overwhelm yourselves. Have those mundane moments. Time does not, or life does not need to be this busy, crazy thing. And I know sometimes life can feel pointless. Life can be pointless sometimes and mundane, but we shouldn't always feel pressured in this like transition period of our lives. I'm assuming most people are around 20s and whatever. I guess life is always a transition period, really, but yeah, we shouldn't feel so pressured. I really am a deep believer that everything will be okay. And of course, I say that from a place of privilege for myself, because everyone's going through different things. But I'm thankful for my situation regardless of how much I complain about it. And I won't stop complaining. Don't get me wrong. I won't stop complaining. My complaints are valid. But yeah, everything's gonna be okay. And that's what I told myself when I went on a little shopping spree. Yeah. It's hard to worry about like bills and stuff when there are bigger problems in this world. I'm not saying don't pay your bills, guys. I'm just saying everything is gonna be okay. Not the end of the world. It's really, truly, truly not the end of the world. And so I have to keep reminding myself of that. And yeah, it's okay if everything is not okay. So this is your sign that a boring Tuesday is still a part of your becoming. You don't always need to be doing something. Put your task down. Take a break. It's okay. And that the mundane moments is where most of life happens. Where you get your ideas, where you get time to really think, and the space to think about new ideas and thoughts and becoming. And maybe that's where we find our purpose and our meaning too. I use those words with a grain of salt, because I don't really believe in that stuff, but other people might, and that's okay. But I also want to know what you guys think are mundane tasks that unexpectedly soothes your souls. Whether it's making coffee, making your bed in the morning, sweeping, doing the dishes, sitting outside, literally sitting in silence for 10 minutes. I want to know. Okay, that's all for today. I love you guys. Bye.